Right, you're watching The Front Row. Thank you for staying with us. We are talking about COVID-19 at one, recovery and resilience. Where are we from? Where are we going, and how are we handling this pandemic? Are we on the right track? I'm speaking to Dr. James Mwangi, who is the MD and Group CEO of the Equity Group Holdings, and Phyllis Wakiaga, CEO, Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Already getting a lot of comments here. And a friend of mine, Alfred Obengo, the president of the National Nurses Association of Kenya, has just texted. He says that on behalf of the nurses and entire health workforce in Kenya, we shall never be able to thank the COVID-19 Fund Board and Equity Group Foundation enough for coming to our aid at the moment of need. Keep your comments coming. That was Alfred Obengo, who's the president of the National Nurses Association of Kenya. Dr. Mwangi, maybe you'd react to that in a bit. But let's speak to Phyllis Wakiaga. Thank you once again for joining us. The manufacturing sector was thrown right at the center of this pandemic to try and bridge the gap when it comes to producing very essential kits, PPEs. We are talking about masks. How did we initially react to this, and what have we been able to do from then till now?
Thanks, Akisa. I hope you can hear me now. So the COVID-19 pandemic threw a curveball to everyone's plans last year. And of course, the first issue was that it was a health issue, so it did affect a lot of our lives, but it also affected livelihoods. And the manufacturing sector was not left behind in terms of the impact. We saw diminishing stock at the beginning. There were constraints in fulfilling clients' orders. There were supply chain challenges, amongst others. But despite that, what we decided as an association was that we wanted to keep Kenya moving during the pandemic. So what we did, and we did carry out surveys and have conversations with our members, we saw the sector shifting their focus from increasing profitability, revenue, and the market share to really looking at how they can retain jobs, reduce costs, and improve their cash flows. They were also able to keep prices stable pretty much last year and continue to supply products for the market. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, we saw everyone rushing to the supermarket and getting products, but they realized that we do have a solid manufacturing sector that was able to supply even when the borders were closed. We also saw a lot of support from the sector to supplying to the community. We gave out water tanks, I think, to quite a number of stations, police stations around the country, and also sanitizers, disinfectants, and many other things. So that is what the sector did to respond to the pandemic. But in addition to that, I think Dr. Mwangi has spoken. We also worked very closely with the COVID Fund and the Equity Fund on the issue of manufacturing of PPEs locally. We saw the gap in the market because at that point, everyone was holding PPEs in their country. The prices of PPEs were pretty high. And we said, why don't we work with the local sector to, first of all, manufacture quality PPEs where we can have value for money and also have the local content. So with the Ministry of Industry, who were very supportive in getting the Kenya Bureau of Standards to work with us to get the quality approved, with the health committee that Dr. Mwangi spoke about and the members, including Albert, who has sent in a message, we were able to work on the quality, visit the factories, review the samples until we got the quality that matched what was being imported into the country. We also worked on the value for money because we were able then to get very competitive prices from the local manufacturers. And a lot of this was also through the capacity building we carried out with McKinsey, who are then supporting the Ministry of Industry. And also one of the Chinese manufacturers, who is a global exporter of PPEs, also came in and also did some trainings for us online. So I think this effort was critical in growing that local manufacturing sector to produce these products locally and really just demonstrating that even amidst the pandemic, we have the resilience as a country. And if we come together and work together, we are able to create jobs locally and also create local supply chains.
How much are we able to produce now in terms of the PPEs, and are we able to meet the current demand?
In terms of the PPEs, we are now doing the coveralls locally, we are doing the aprons locally, we are doing the foot covers locally, the head covers locally. So quite a bit of the kit, the boots locally are being produced locally. The goggles are now being done locally. So it's probably maybe one item out of the entire kit that is not yet being done locally. As Dr. Mwangi mentioned, we have been working to support the hospitals that were given to us by the Ministry of Health, and we receive updates from them when their stock levels diminish. We are able to restock and supply to them. I believe that locally we are able to meet the demand. You've heard we also even export. We have the ability to export PPEs, and we have the local capacity to meet the demand within the market currently.
Right. Dr. Mwangi also mentioned that perhaps with this third wave, we need to move towards a direction of enhancing capacity, and especially in our hospitals. What are your thoughts on the current challenges that we are dealing with this third wave, and how do we come in as manufacturers at this point?
With the third wave, one of the key challenges we've had is, of course, a lot of ICU admissions. And I think you saw one of our members, BOC Gases, last week appealing to Kenyans to return the oxygen cylinders because there's a shortage of that in the market. The other thing we've started to look at actually today, in partnership with Dr. Liswa, who also sits on the health committee, is the manufacture locally of oxygen delivery accessories. Because a lot of these accessories are also all imported into the country, and there's an opportunity for us to manufacture them locally because there's now also a shortage or sometimes a delay in the delivery of some of these items. So we've set up a few meetings in the course of this week to look at that, see what it takes to manufacture them locally, and have a conversation also with the Ministry of Industry, the Bureau of Standards. So we are continuing to look at the needs in the market and seeing how we can supply those needs. Last year, we also did get our automotive sector manufacture a local ventilator last year. So I believe that we will continue to respond to the needs as they arise. If we need to ramp up production locally, I believe the manufacturing sector is able to do that. And if we require any support, the Ministry of Industry, CS Betty Maina and her team are always available to expedite any processes and approvals required to manufacture these PPEs. The other thing we've done as the Association of Manufacturers, we've set up a CAM Health and Safety Center, which showcases the PPEs and COVID-related products that are manufactured in Kenya. So within the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we have a microsite that is a one-stop center for information on the supply of PPEs and COVID essential items that are made in Kenya. So this will then also make it accessible to the public, to the hospitals. Anyone who needs this item is able to go to that microsite. They'll be able to see the different products being made locally. The contacts are there. They can fill the forms or call up the different manufacturers. So that also gives them easier access to be able to get this product.
Phyllis Wakiaga, stay with us on the line. I will still be engaging you here on the front row. She's the CEO of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. I want us to now talk about the financial implications of COVID-19, the economic strife that we have all had to experience. We're talking job losses. We're talking about pay cuts. Many had to restructure their loans. Equity Group Holdings has been able to come up with interventions that have helped their consumers throughout this period, and I want us to quickly look at that on our Super Bowl before I engage Dr. Mwangi to just break down these interventions for us. Let's have that Super Bowl to just take a look at some of the measures that Equity Group put in place to ensure that they cushion their members or consumers. They waived fees on mobile banking transactions, totaling to 1.2 billion. Dr. Mwangi would correct me on that. Loan restructuring fees waived for borrowers affected by COVID-19, and that's from 2020 to now. Let's take a look at what else Equity Group did. Enhanced the core capital buffers by withdrawing 9.5 billion dividends for 2019, and he'll be telling us where this went and how impactful has that. What did we use this money on? Dr. Mwangi will be speaking to us on that. Equity Group also did partial credit guarantees on select borrowers, and the group also secured DFI funding running up to $350 million to strengthen liquidity. And we're also talking about mobile and contributed 1.7 billion towards the COVID-19 fight. That's COVID. Fortunately, there's a typo there. My apologies for that. Dr. Mwangi, this is just some of the things I was able to pick out on how Equity Group responded during a time of need for many Kenyans. Break that down for us. These interventions, were they impactful? How did they help Kenyans?
Thank you, Keisha. I think the first one was to really train our staff so that they can be trainers of our customers. And we mobilized Equity Afya, our doctors, and, to do the training. And that has really helped our staff to be bold and courageous in passing the same knowledge to our customers. The second one was scaling Equity Afya. By last year, March, we only had 6 Equity Afya clinics. Now we have 40 Equity Afya clinics to complement the government efforts in dealing with this health pandemic. And last year we saw Equity Afya clinics see 400,000 patients. So that was a direct support. But coming to the bank, the biggest intervention was waiving mobile fees. That amounted to about 1.2 billion shillings. And that encouraged customers to move on to the mobile platforms, and then they didn't need to come to the bank, and they could comply with all the protocols of COVID management as prescribed by the Ministry of Health. The second one was rescheduling loans. We rescheduled loans amounting to 171 billion shillings, giving borrowers repayment breaks of up to 3 years. And the cost of rescheduling that was approximately 1.4 billion shillings. That again was waived to reduce the pain from the borrowers. And the last one that added a lot of support to the customers was those whose cash flow was impaired, and we could tell some, like those in hotels, in tours and travel, the airspace, those we gave them up to 3 years, so that you focus on looking after your family, your employees, and retooling and repurposing your business, other than focusing on loans. And we are glad out of the 171 billion, customers with 40 billion has now come forward and said, we now can be able to start repaying. So you could see the accommodation then ensured the rights of the economies were kept on, the economy kept on supporting livelihoods, creating job opportunities in the marketplace, and supporting the families of the entrepreneurs. But I think broadly, where Equity then did bigger contribution was contributing 1.1 billion shillings to the COVID board and saying this can protect all Kenyans. As Dr. Beko said, that is what then was part of the 1.4 billion that is protecting our frontline health workers by providing them with PPEs and providing them with a 2-year socio-psycho support program. In addition to that, we looked at our Wings to Fly and Elimu scholars, 17,000 of them, and we felt we needed to give them support. And we ensured that they remain in class studying by providing each of them with a radio. They could tune in to education programs. We provided them with a charger and a solar panel so that we could bridge the digital divide for them, and they could be able to join other children. And in addition to that, we felt because of vulnerability and to ensure we protected them, we gave them a stipend of 3,000 shillings every month until they went back to school, just to ensure they remained focused on their education, and we maintained the close relationship with them. And then lastly, as Phyllis said, the manufacturers that were trained, those who needed support to be able to manufacture PPEs, we opened up the loan taps, and by the end of the year, we grew our loan book by 30%, just to ensure that those in business who could see green shoots, who wanted to diversify their business, transform their business, continue to do that with the support of the bank.
I want to bring in Phyllis now before we go on a break. Are there any opportunities that we have seen during this COVID-19 period that you think we would be able to leverage as a country going forward? Right, Phyllis, can you hear me? Okay, that challenge again.
Yes.
Yes, perfect,
yes.
Phyllis. Talk to us about the opportunities we've been able to pinpoint during this period that as a country we would be able to leverage going forward.
First and foremost, because of the pandemic, we've seen a lot of opportunities, of course, in the healthcare sector. We carried out a study last year on where we're looking at a policy toolkit on resilience and sustainability of the manufacturing sector post the COVID or within this COVID period. And out of it, we were able to identify industries with opportunities even within the pandemic. So we had about 76 opportunities we identified from the manufacturing sector. A lot of them are within the healthcare sector. So that is a big opportunity for us to be able to take advantage of. Also, the supply of medical equipment is another critical area. The investment in adoption of new technology, I think one of the things that came out clearly during COVID was how technology really came and took a front line. So even within the manufacturing sector, the issue of technology, Internet of Things, 3D printing, and all the related industries around that. We still also have the agro-processing industries that are a big opportunity for us to take advantage of, the circular economy, green manufacturing. So we have about 76 opportunities, specific opportunities we identified in our resilience and sustainability policy toolkit. And we are working with the different manufacturing sectors to see how we can really take up this different opportunity. We were also able to come up with some policy proposals that we put forward to government. The critical one was to see how we can nurture the nascent business opportunities that have emerged. Those around the manufacture of PPEs and all the opportunities that have emerged. I think it's important for us to see how we can nurture them. Also, the second policy proposal we had was the issue of the do no harm principle, where we are saying because the pandemic is going to play out for quite some time, it's important that we work in a way that we don't do any further harm to the economy. So the need for policy stability, even within the pandemic, so that we don't have too many changes in taxation policies and other items. Then the third policy proposal we had was around the need to support SMEs because they are definitely the hardest hit by the pandemic. So the creation of the credit guarantee scheme. And I'm happy that Equity, in partnership with the European Investment Bank, Government of Kenya, have been able to put together a credit guarantee scheme to enable SMEs to borrow, to be able to survive the pandemic. And then the other thing we noted was also the positive impact of some of the measures that came through from government. During the pandemic last year, I think we did see the reduction of corporate tax from 30 to 25%. Right. That unlocked purchasing power for a lot of people, the reduction of VAT from 16 to 14%, the measures that were able to unlock more cash flow for the banks from central bank to enable them loan. And I think you've even heard that they've been able to increase their loan book during this period. So all those measures, I think, did their part in cushioning the economy last year. And what we are saying, because this pandemic is still ongoing, can we still look at what measures we can put in place to support business? Because we don't know how long this is going to play out for. So we are still keen to say, can we keep the policy environment as stable as possible, as predictable as possible, and so that we're able to support businesses to recover?
The minimum tax, when we're talking about supporting businesses to recover and MSMEs, you have in various forums said you're concerned about it. And now that we're dealing with the third wave and it really took effect this year, how are these groups handling this turnover tax?
Yes, the minimum tax is something that I think, as you said, you've heard me speak about it quite a bit, because we think that it's really punitive at this time when businesses are trying to survive through a pandemic whose end we do not know, to introduce a new tax. And the minimum tax is on your gross turnover. So for low margin businesses, it's a real hit because they end up paying out of more than their profits because you're paying out of your gross turnover. It's also going to affect startups and new businesses because it's payable every quarter and whether or not you have made a profit. So it's something that we've really been urging government to relook at because in the middle of a pandemic, introducing a tax like that will really have an impact. If you look at a lot of manufacturers, they operate through distributors. And for each of the levels, if everyone is paying a minimum tax, what happens is that all that is passed on to the consumer. So it will simply lead to higher costs of production locally. Or if that doesn't happen, the middlemen will be cut off, and those are also jobs. So our appeal has really been that for this season, can we hold on to the minimum tax, allow businesses to survive the pandemic and make it through, and then we can reconsider it at the right time.
Right, I'll be getting back to you shortly. Major concerns there on the minimum tax. But when we get back, let's talk about supporting the SMEs and what really should be in our recovery, economic recovery strategy going forward. I'm speaking to Dr. James Mwangi, the CEO, Equity Group Holdings, and CEO, Kenya Association of Manufacturers. What are your thoughts? Text us on 22155, Twitter, Sarakisa Wandera at KTN News KE. We'll be getting back with the last tweet of the show. To stay with us.